thought I was. There we go. Hello and welcome to an evening with comrades. Tonight it is I, the Frenchiest Fry, TK Jones. I'm back. It's good to be back. And joining us is, as always, Positus Pac-Man. You're gonna say
Pac-Man?
hello? Is
Peter?
is he there?
Uh-oh.
Maybe he's not always with us.
Okay. he just left. What a good start. Also with us tonight we have Dip Dap.
Ayo, what's good? I'm on 8 shots of espresso, I can kill God.
We have with us Senna.
Hello, fuck cops.
Or, I should say I can and I will.
And we have
With a cactus.
joining us as well Theo.
Hi, I'm God. Dip that, come on, kill me, come on, come on.
Oh,
on.
showdown time.
Hold on. Got him. Got him!
Oh my god.
I win!
Alright, listen here, you son of a bitch. He kicked me. He
I
kicked
win.
me.
Good.
My win!
Well, tonight we sit in the shadow of a 800,000 strong massive general strike in France. The transport in and around Paris has been shut down. Essentially, the report in the article that's linked in the description, I think it's that one, is saying that Paris is basically cut off from the rest of the country, and the rest of the country as well is joining in on the strike as well. And this is all to
Okay.
fight back against Macron's, just Macron in general, I believe.
Macron moments.
Yeah. So my question, of course, is, why is France so ready to kick off this kind of boogaloo at the drop of a hat? And
Why are
if
they
we could
not?
tap into why, is it possible to export it to other countries?
Well, France is a nuclear power, so my hopes are up.
Welcome back, Peter.
Hi guys. Sorry about that. Audio crashed out and I lost connection to the server, but I am back. I am here. Hello.
Yes.
But yeah, Theo lives next to France. She can start.
I live
Although-
nowhere near garlic land. What are you talking about?
You live
Get
closer
closer than
Theo?
us.
Galia.
Yeah, but the fucking they live in another dimension. France isn't a real country.
I think we were
Yeah,
talking.
to be honest, true.
We were talking just before about strike culture. Could someone explain what that is for those who don't know?
Well, I guess I can have a crack at it in the sense that, for some reason, and this is just me, I think it all comes down back to Napoleonic, like the sort of Napoleonic era, and just prior to that, because, I mean, there's only one country in Europe other than France who has changed its government as many times, and that would be Italy. And the Italians are just bored. Let's be honest. The Italians have a riot every weekend because you've got the Lazio Roma game in Rome, so I mean that kicks off a pretty good riot. But on the whole, they are. It's gotten to the point in some parts of Italy, especially in Naples, where people will actually turn to the mafia for law enforcement rather than the actual police because
Oh.
the police don't show up. Italy is just politically. Italy has been a mess since I don't know Rome. I guess. Constant shitstorm. I mean, then you've got the Renaissance city-states. I mean, Italy is just a mess. But besides Italy, France has changed its government more times in the past 200 years than pretty much any other country in Europe. And
Oh yeah.
in almost every case, it was always the people in charge of France being absolute fucking wankers. Like, you see,
Boomer moment.
it's weird. You see, I think the big difference between France and the US in a lot of ways, at least to give us a bit of a context, is that when the United States had their revolution, which was prior to the French Revolution, they established a representative democracy, or excuse me, a republic, with quotation marks, unless you were not landowning, black, gay. Yeah, pretty much list every other, unless you were a property owning, white, straight, married man, you
You
couldn't
were
vote.
fucked.
But
With kids. With kids.
with kids, yes, with kids. Yeah, you couldn't vote. But
Specifically,
they
at least a male heir.
but yeah. But
It's
yeah,
totally
that's
not
the thing.
feudalism, guys. I swear. I swear
Totally
to God,
not.
it's not feudal. I swear to God, it's not feudalism because we
I-
kill
I-
everyone on the land.
Guys, I swear. I swear that sharecropping isn't like feudalism. Please, guys, I swear.
That's right. When you know that's a funny thing. I remember a statistic reading about that kind of thing is that at one stage in America, 1/3 of all Americans were owned by another American.
Mhm.
Which is a fun statistic, but
It's not feudalism because it's American.
yeah,
Or
freedom.
we just retained feudal structures. We're like, yeah.
But the United States is a very interesting topic because it's very unique in the fact that despite all its reforms and stuff like that, it's essentially the same government and the same country-ish from 1776 onwards to now,
And it's only
which
had,
sets it
like,
apart from
it's
what?
had, the only change is in the 1780s. Really.
Yeah.
When we
Well,
got
and the
the-
18 and
The
1865.
right, but that was like just one that was one that didn't go through. The one in the
Yeah, well,
1880s went through.
I mean, yeah, that like it's the same sort of system that's been sort
Right.
of going, and France, meanwhile, had the Bourbon monarchy, which they overthrew in the French Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
After the French Revolution, they had the Revolutionary Terror, where Robespierre did nothing wrong. After that,
Mega Guillotine 2020.
yeah, seriously. And
I
and during that
I
time,
hope.
it was like, yeah, I wish too, Theo. And during that time, pretty much everybody, like there was a riot every Thursday, basically, until eventually, of course, Napoleon took over and took over the Constitutional Assembly, elected himself consul, and then became emperor. And then you have the Napoleonic period, and then there was a republic again. Then there was a monarchy again. Then there was a republic again. Then there was a monarchy. Then there was a monarchy with a constitutional republic, and then there was a republic again. And you know, in all of these cases, it was triggered by a riot of
Just
some
for
kind.
reference, all of that is over the span of 30 years.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, we've got the third French Republic now, but it's actually more like the 17th or 18th French
It's
Republic.
actually the sixth. It's actually the sixth because it. No, it's the fourth French Republic now. We're not at the third. The third ended because it does not, like, the current French Republic does not view itself as, like, it does not view the Vichy government as a legitimate government during World War II.
No,
And
it technically was.
and says that in political terms, the Third French Republic ended when France surrendered to Germany in 1940.
Oh right, so it's officially the fourth, but yeah,
Yeah.
in reality it's like the 18th, depending which, like, you know, it's like
Wait, 18th. 18th. You mean the 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte?
yeah.
So,
Well, maybe.
so would you say there's like a tradition in France whenever they have large scale sort of actions like this, the goal is always to depose the current
Bring down the
leaders?
government.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is
it's-
that's in stark contrast to the US's goals in their large labor movement, which is to stagnate for 15, 20 years. Is that?
I would actually say I would actually give a hot take for from a leftist perspective here. The United States has done the only real success story in terms of, the idea that the vanguardists always propagate. By the way, the US judicially reforms itself and then has the occasional civil war. They've actually managed to secure their revolution through revolutionary terror, whereas the French have a revolutionary terror, then they go too far, get deposed, and then have another one. The French will go on strike for just about everything. Where with the United States, it's almost unthinkable to go on strike unless the situation is absolutely completely desperate.
And
Whereas the French will go on
Yeah,
strike
pretty
just to get their
much.
point across.
and that's the difference with the strike culture between the US and France.
I mean,
In
if
the
you,
US, that's like an absolute last resort. Like, your company is gonna go in and fucking shoot everyone tomorrow unless you guys go
Yeah.
on strike.
yeah, pretty much.
But, yeah, other
No,
than that,
I'm-
it's just deal with it.
Now, American unionists in the early 20th century recognized this and were like, France has a union culture, we don't. They have more power with unions because the unions have guns.
Yeah. Well,
And they simply said the French unionists were militarily trained.
Mm.
They weren't just some bumfuck with a gun. They were a militarily trained man from the French military that has a gun.
Do you want
Yeah.
a boogaloo? We can give you a boogaloo.
well, the French had national service until the 1960s. I'm pretty
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah, they knew how to do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna Google that. I'm gonna make sure that. Okay. Actually, oh my God, no! Compulsory military service ended in 1996. So, like, you
Damn.
had to be in the military.
Shit, man.
I mean,
Yeah.
You filthy
to be honest, though-
leftist swine, you IWW card-carrying communist, get in that barracks and learn how to use a rifle, damn you.
well, that's the thing that I've always laughed about because, like, it's a hot take that gets me in trouble. Why I think national service actually helps our cause rather than hinders it.
It is, I do think, to an extent, in some cases, like in a country that's not involved in an active war.
Yeah, the
which
only
is
problem
almost
with
never the US.
Yeah,
so...
the America,
Yeah.
the America has been at war for like 85% of its history. Does not help us.
Yeah, so
No.
like
yeah.
in the case
That
of,
and
yeah,
Hey,
US
yeah.
military service does. Let's face it, they actively do attempt to brainwash their troops, and that's
They do.
not the
Yeah.
best thing to go through, I would say.
the Marines
Well-
more than the Army, but yeah.
They start-
Yeah. As
My,
always, the
they-
Marines are insane.
They
My
start
friend,
at
my
top,
friend
though.
who was in the Air Force told me that like Marines are like fucking psychopathic robots.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, they are.
like I used to know one guy rather that was in the Marines, and of course we have a mutual friend that was in the Army. I can tell you right now who I'd rather hang out with.
I think I think yeah. I from my experiences of it, from what really bothers me is that you sort of look at it in terms of like mental programming. Like if you change like 3 words or like 3 topics inside it, the Pledge of Allegiance, which American school children say every morning, if you change like a few words here and there, it becomes the Hitler Youth Oath.
Oof.
Like in 2 seconds.
What?
Yeah!
No,
You know
what do you? No.
That is not an accident.
Yeah.
I'm telling you
It's
now.
the same one. It's the same one. They stole it from the Nazis and repurposed it to reinforce the bulwark
actually
against
what hap-
communism.
You want to? It's even worse than that. It originated, if I remember correctly, from like Burschenschaften in the US, where then like the Nazis saw that and were like, "That's cool. We're gonna take that." And well, in the Cold War, they said they took it from the Burschenschaften. I don't believe them.
The American school children were doing a Nazi salute until like 1940 something.
I
Yeah.
believe you're
They
wrong.
they
It
were
is
they
a
did
Roman
instead of
salute.
putting your hand over your heart, you did the Roman salute in the mornings.
You have to
Mhm.
get Snopes on that one, just to be sure.
Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, apparently the original wording was written in like 1892,
Ooh,
adopted by Congress in 1942.
side note, we have some comments in the chat. Hello to
Oh my
socialism
God.
or barbarism, and also
Barbie's here.
hello to
Hello.
national dingism.
Oh,
Who says
Yeah, they did. They were.
that's a cursed username.
National Dengism is actually a troll. He's a leftist troll. He's one of my subscribers.
he says
Oh,
Buddy,
I'm
national-
sure he's all right. I'm just saying that's cursed.
in the chat.
Evening gamers. Yeah, like,
You ready to have a
You only
heated
got-
gamer moment, Sock Barb? Okay.
I'm
So
not gonna say the N word on the stream.
So
Good.
from the loose
Let's
context
not.
we sort of established, we could see that
Nut.
the
Thank you, baby.
the
That's
strike culture in
one of many.
France just would you say it's not replicatable elsewhere, especially in the US and Australia?
The US is too large. It is too
Yeah.
bloated.
Here's the thing about the US. The US is such a fucking huge place, and the culture of like every city is so goddamn different. They might as well all be their own different countries.
I know that.
So it's worth trying to bring that mentality into your local area, but some huge national movement in the US probably not gonna happen.
See,
Mm.
right, I know it's the most liberal cancer to like try and use fiction to like make comparisons to real life politics, but I think, and I'm gonna get shot here right away, but
Oh dear.
40k, the reason that the Imperium has been stagnant for literally 10,000 years is that it is so huge, massive, and bloated that, like, obviously on a much more exaggerated scale, but that was originally meant as an allegory to the United States. It is so huge, so bloated that no matter how many people you get to like go out and do something, there's just always more in the backlog, too isolated from everything else to be affected, and that alone is enough to like crush something. That's why.
We should,
Yeah.
We should get Eugene in
That's-
here to talk about 40k because that's his
Huge.
like, thing.
And that's
some heresy right there.
And that's like the difference between the US and say Russia or Australia is that Russia and Australia are both equally huge. The thing is, US has major cities all across the board, like major population centers with states and stuff. Who lives in central Russia?
I mean, you've got Sverdlovsk.
Baba Yaga.
Who lives
Shut up,
in
kid.
who lives in the outback?
The steakhouse?
TK.
Yeah.
The
Well,
Bunyip.
no, I'm not even in the what you would call the outback. I'm just regional Victoria. The outback,
No.
there's just fucking like
Farmers.
nothing.
Bunyip.
Farmers, of course.
The
Kangaroo
Bunyip.
Jack.
But this,
And
but
when
their
we
land
say
is so
farmers, we-
spread out and wide that you can
Yeah.
fly an aeroplane around and never go over someone else's property. Then you hit Alice Springs and there's about 40,000, 50,000 people there.
Yeah, there are people in Australia that own land that has a larger like surface area than quite a few countries.
Yeah, like
Yep.
there's a sheep station. The smallest sheep station in WA is the size of Liechtenstein. Like the smallest one.
Okay,
Like, you
I
know
think
what I mean?
I don't think you actually understand quite how small Liechtenstein is. It's the size of a small town. That's not that much for a farm, I'll be honest.
Yeah, when you
That's a
consider
small
that
list.
that's the smallest one. Like
Yeah.
the smallest one.
Yeah, I know you're trying to put it into perspective, yeah.
Oh yeah, like the largest sheep station in WA is probably the size of Ireland. Maybe even
Oh.
bigger.
That's.
I mean, there are sheep stations and ranches in Texas the size of France.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit ridiculous. But we all knew that.
Someone else has joined the chat. Who is this?
Who is here?
It's
That
So-
would be me.
socialism and
It's
barbarism.
Soccer
Welcome.
Bar!
It's
Oh my
socialism or
God.
barbarism from the dead, out of nowhere. What's going on?
Alright.
Okay. Am I on the fucking stream? Can people
Yes.
hear me?
You're on.
Yes.
You're on, my dude. You are here.
What are we fucking talking about?
So
We're talking about.
right now we're comparing the massive general strike in France and its strike culture to right now the US. And my next question was going to be like, because they're so different and because it's so hard to really do much labor stuff in the US, because you can't export, the revolution from France. What's the tactic to use in the US and elsewhere when it comes to this sort of thing? Sorry, I'm trying to get your icon on the screen while talking at the same time.
Balkanize the US!
I mean, that's part of it, but
Well, I
easier
guess
said
that,
than done on its own.
Well, here's the thing. Some fucking guy was like, "Oh, the U.S. and the Soviet Union are gonna fall," and like he said like some fucking guy, and I think Canadian has talked about this to me before, and he said like, U.S. politics right now mirror late Soviet politics,
Yeah.
Yes.
like heavily.
Yeah.
The America's gonna go, fellas. I can't fucking wait.
Yeah, like
it's almost like the U.S. and the Soviet Union were kind of just two sides of the same shitty coin.
Yes.
like-
Yes.
Even
yes.
the Pentagon, recognizes this by saying the U.S. has to fucking expand more, or it will fucking die.
Yeah, like you can see a lot of parallels, with how the failed foreign policies with
There's
like
a
NATO crumbling, like with NATO crumbling being a pretty good, like fucking you know, it's
Barometer?
representative of how the fucking how the Soviets started losing their satellite states in the late 80s, and how the the American invasion of Afghanistan is an allegory to the invasion of Afghanistan.
Well,
Afghanistan, Uber alles, no one can defeat Afghanistan.
Go
no
ahead.
one actually can.
Go ahead, Sockbob. What were you gonna say?
I think it was I believe his name is Andrei Tarkovsky. He was the famous Russian writer who wrote Stalker, the the famous novel. And there's a term he came up with called hypernormalization, and what that term referred to was just sort of the mood in sort of stagnation era Soviet Union, so like 70s, 80s, where it was like everything is fucked. This isn't a good society, but they couldn't imagine anything different,
Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on in the US right now. Like,
it was interesting.
everything's horrible. People are starting to be like, hey, we should try and do something, but no one's attempting anything that's going to work because they don't really know how.
Soccer bar, that sounds like capitalist realism.
Yeah, I was about to say that term hypernormalization. When I heard of it, it reminded me a lot of Fukuyama's end of history thing in a way, because it is just sort of that. It's the same kind of thinking where it is. This is the sort of end. Yeah, like there's nothing else we can do. It's sort of the general mood that sort of captures, I think, which is interesting.
It's whether you like it or not, this is where we are, and we're not going anywhere.
Right.
Really.
I mean, the impending collapse of the United States is pretty much guaranteed.
Beautiful.
I think
Somebody in
there's
the
no way around it.
somebody in the chat, his name is just a bunch of letters. He's saying he commented saying the US and the Soviet Union are the same is extremely reductive. Well, we're not literally
That's not what
saying
we-
it like
we're
the
not
US and
literally-
the Soviet
Yeah.
Union are the same thing.
We're-
Like,
There's some very similar aspects going on. We're kind of focusing on that.
We're not saying that they're the same. We're saying that they are going through a comparable period of internal and external degeneration, where their power like their power projection is starting to slip both internally and externally, which is what objectively happened to the Soviet Union in 1990 and is happening to the US right now. We're
Hot
not
take,
saying that they're the same.
hot take, all empires end the same way. Empires fall for the same reasons every time because no empire is 100% sustainable.
Yeah, whenever it's an expand or die kind of thing, the end result is always die.
No. Here's the real reason that empires fail. The Germans. It's always the Germans. Think about it.
God damn.
I mean, they had a pretty good one for about 6 years.
Okay. So there's an interesting question to ask then. When capitalism really starts hitting the upper echelons, like not just the poor, but then the middle class and the upper middle class, who's gonna be able to survive the transition from capitalism to whatever the next thing is? Is it gonna be the US because they've got the power to imprison the entire country? Is it going to be France because the unions are so rampant and have a plan post-capitalism? Is it going to be that one island with a bunch of Prims running around that we don't know about because they haven't got Twitter?
Okay, so
It's going to be the Albanians.
Before I answer your question,
Yeah.
TK, before I answer your question,
They
I'm
got a
gonna
bunker.
add to what you said, Peter, with your edgy joke. I'm still not wrong. The Nazis will kill the Third Reich.
Yeah.
Still Germans destroying an empire, but
It's always the Germans, the Theo.
yeah.
Just
No,
deep in
but
the White House, there's just one
to
guy
answer
going
your
like,
question-
"We're gonna have to kill the Germans if we want to survive this thing."
yeah.
They all think he's
so-
crazy.
But to answer your question, TK,
Hmm.
if things are going the way that they are going, if we are looking at a complete economic collapse, US isn't going to survive. Well, parts of it is going to balkanize because the US has considerable
Secessionist.
no.
People's Revolutionary State of Texas.
Resources.
Calling it.
It's
Resources,
got
yeah.
resources that would be able to sustain itself after, in the West, you've got California, which is gonna burn,
Implode.
but
It's gonna
Heard of
implode.
Brexit, now get ready for Texit.
Texit's gonna be
That's
great.
it.
Texit's
but you
fantastic.
have large agricultural
Alexit.
places in the US that can sustain large amounts of population, but the US government isn't going to be able to keep its hold over the whole country because all of its industry is outsourced.
In China.
Yeah, and China isn't. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think the PRC
China won't
is
either.
gonna No,
China, because
they're gonna balkanize too.
So it's
And
a
so-
oh yeah, we're gonna have
there are a few
warlord era
categories.
too.
so there's a
There are a
real
few
like
categories of people. There are a few categories of nation, I think, that will fare better in this sort of scenario, and those are the smaller nations that have neighbors that they are amicable with. So say NATO would just collapse in on itself theoretically.
Based.
Whether
Yeah.
and resources
Based
start
on-
to get tight. Most of Europe has fairly good relations with each other. There will be some cooperation between each other, trying to get some actual industry going again. It will hurt the other category of nations. I think that will do better than others are developing nations that already don't get the help that they would need in order to develop an industry.
Right.
When the crash happens, they're not really that affected.
if you already have nothing, and shit hits the fan, what changed?
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's a real
The only difference is that there's no giant over you anymore that can point a gun at you because they're broke.
Yep.
It's like that scene in Rick and Morty
Actually-
where it's like
Shut the fuck up right the fuck now.
You know,
No,
this
TK,
reminds me of
not
something
allowed.
in Harry Potter, actually.
I'll be honest with you. Like of all the developed countries, quotation marks, I think the best one that's gonna survive is actually us, Australia. I think.
Again,
I think.
agriculture. You
Oh
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
Australia is just
We
a
got the room.
series of interconnected city-states connected by really crappy highways. That's it. As soon as the federal government and the state governments like don't have enough money, that's it. All of these different cities will just become cut off from one another, especially because of all the bushfires that'll separate us, and we'll just have to live on the coast.
I think
Man,
that
imagine having borders made of bushfires. That's badass.
The great nation of Perth.
Look, I don't want to sound like our gentleman across the aisle, but I think Australia has a lot of advantages for a lot of reasons. I think two big ones that the population density is very low for the amount of land that we have. You know, we've got fucking farms and mines and God knows what else out the ass, and we've only got 27 million people. And the other part is in terms of social stability. Australia is, for all the claims of Australia being a multicultural country, not really.
All right,
It's
fellas,
a mono-ethnic,
Alabama will
multicultural.
survive. Alabama will survive because we have plants. Basically, that's it. We have food.
Like Australia
France
has
will-
food,
France will
natural
actually-
resources.
Actually, this is why France might fare better, because France is one of the only countries in the world that has an emergency reserve of food production set up to be able to, like, it actually has it's one of the few countries in the world at this point that has a positive net food production.
I did not know that.
Damn.
Yeah. So if all lines were to break off, like no imports could come in at all, France would probably be one of the only places that would be capable of feeding its own population in the like immediate future.
Well,
If
it's
Australia
South-
nationalized its
South
food
Asia,
production.
Southeast
Of course,
Asia would be quite
refugee movements are gonna slack that immediately, but just still, they have more food production, like per capita, than any other nation in Europe.
Well, it's interesting. Just there's a lot of stuff that you can just say about just sort of the state of farming and agriculture in the contemporary epoch that we're in general. Like here in the U.S., like farming has gotten really, really consolidated. Like the
Someone's here again.
Oh, who joined?
Me,
It's
Kenix Mark.
Mark.
Hello.
Don't follow me.
Gosh,
Hello,
Oh,
don't
shit.
follow me on
We got-
Twitter.
we've got like a whole fucking thing going on.
Yes, this is a mega episode now.
Goddamn.
Anyway, yeah, farming has gotten a lot more consolidated. It's basically farming is more or less gotten. It's more sort of
Industry.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
It's,
owned by a few small.
Oh yeah.
It's like the
Large.
whole idea of like the sort of the small, medium-sized farmer that is sort of a big part of just sort of our national sort of American mythology. That's
Gone.
that's pretty much gone. Yeah, like those people are still around, but it's incredibly difficult to do because it's very expensive and it doesn't like a medium-sized farmer or a small farmer doesn't really make
It's,
any money.
it's-
It's not profitable.
Also-
Yeah.
Another thing
Like,
about that.
I've
is
actually seen like there is like one group of people I vaguely know, and that they're it's basically a small group of trans people who own an alpaca farm, and yeah, they're having trouble because it's hard.
That's going to be closed down within a couple years. I guarantee it. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
yeah. Small farming was always heavily
A bunch of
subsidized in
trans
the
people
US.
breeding alpacas. That's an amazing sight. I
Okay,
really
okay.
want to see this farm. Link me.
Okay, so another thing about this is important.
Mhm.
That another thing about farmers is they get sued out the ass by Monsanto
They do.
because,
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
if like their crop cross pollinates with the Monsanto brand TM crop, they get sued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in other places of the world, the,
Mega guillotine all Monsanto fucking shareholders. They all must die.
in
You
our
are-
country, the big farmers just burn down the small farmers' crops if they get angry. That's what our prime minister did to one guy. Funny
What
thing.
country is
The
this?
prime minister
Czech
did
Republic.
this.
Oh.
Yeah, his company.
Oh, his company. Okay.
One thing that you'll hear sometimes if you read, certain articles, you'll hear this there's a lot of hype about sometimes you'll hear people say, "Oh, fucking medium farms are gone," but like we have like actually a bunch of really really small farms now. It's like it's hype. Like it's not most small farms are not actually farms. They're just like gardens basically. Yeah.
Subsistence farming.
Like well, no, it's not even subsistence farming. It's like, because
It's like
they'll say,
being
oh, there's like X million small farms. Like, yeah, farming is getting more consolidated, but we have more small farms than ever. Is this thing you hear sometimes? It's not true. Like, farming is just getting more consolidated, and most of those small farms are just like some rich person who grows tomatoes or something in like their
Yeah.
backyard. That's not a farm. Like, don't.
Yeah, like the most you ever see from it is like groups of these people do these small farm things and then they all like get together and have like farmers market things.
Yeah.
That's the closest
Zordon!
you ever see to it.
Thank you, Zordon.
Zordon gave us money.
Gave
Woo!
us $2
Hey!
for a Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Woo!
Also,
What is
fellas,
this? What do you people even use that money for, by the way?
Nothing at the moment.
TK food.
Uh,
TK food.
TK to eat, basically.
All right.
Because-
we've been going
So
on
yeah,
about-
there's a lot of stuff to be, not to cut whoever off, but there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about just sort of the state of agriculture in the United States and around the world in general that aren't really being talked about in mainstream
Oh,
discourse.
yeah, and especially when things start collapsing, that's going to become a very huge concern, which is why I do think it's a good idea for people to engage in like subsistence farming and things like that, if at all possible. Like, if you can,
At least get the
should. That
skills.
stuff's going to be
At least get the
Yes.
skills.
yeah, at least learn how to like tend to these crops and stuff because oh my god, we're gonna need that. But no one talks about it. It's just kind of scary.
I guess
we
that
should
might
probably
be a
move on
good
to the next topic.
Yeah, that's a good takeaway. Good point to end on.
I think that we should start switching to agriculture and aquaculture rather, like fish
Permaculture.
farming. No, I think that aquaculture is the focus because we need to make
Hydroponics.
provisions for us. We need to make provisions for our cetacean comrades, guys. Come on.
Well, I mean permaculture for like yourself.
Permaculture, but in cities, basically.
Yes.
Futurism, but with vark characteristics.
Okay.
Our
I'm
dolphin comrades are essential to the revolution.
All right. Before we start turning this into the Prim farm posting hour, I'm gonna move us on to the next topic. Just before we do, I want to remind everyone to like and subscribe, and to remind everyone to that they can donate via the donation link that I will have to remember to add to the description. But when you do donate, a little
You
it's
die.
Comrade
You buy
example,
TK
Oh
food.
man, I really want to die.
Comrade
You buy
example
TK
John
food.
donated to the cause. That money goes to better storage,
Killing you? I
I
boosting
wish I had
the
money to donate to
Discord
the EML
server.
suicide booth.
Suicide.
TK gets food.
Yes, it goes back to making us able to bring content to you. Apart from the last couple of weeks where I had an injury and I was also sick, but ignoring that, moving on to the next topic, which is news coming from the US. Pelosi has drafted or will potentially draft impeachment charges against Trump. So welcome
my
to the half
God.
hour
Ah,
where we
yes.
laugh
Fucking-
at Trump.
Who fucking cares? I'm so sick of hearing about this fucking retarded impeachment shit.
Yes,
Oof.
this.
This, all
Here's
of
the
this.
thing.
Literally no one in America who isn't like, a party loyalist Democrat gives a flying fuck about impeachment.
Yeah, but he's funny. He's stupid.
It's funny moments.
Yeah.
It
It's a
is
meme.
funny to watch him suffer.
All right, soccer.
That much I will
Barbie.
say.
It it's a funny gamer moment.
Yeah, like
Pretty much.
It's a Fortnite funny.
I don't think it
I
is though.
have-
It's just like fucking, liberal wine moms and like, Trump boomers just like flinging shit at each other on social
Yeah.
media.
It's funny watching the two fucking monkeys fight in the zoo.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but then you realize the two monkeys
very succinctly
control the world,
yeah.
Oh
and
no.
it's sad.
See, I have a friend who has a law degree, right? And see, the behavior from both sides, right, are consistent with Trump is acting consistent with how a delinquent acts that has been called like trespassing or something, and the Democrats are acting like consistent with someone that just got to make their first insurance claim and are going way overboard with it. Like
Yeah,
mean-
that sums it up.
that, and it's just funny because I like the whole fucking what was it called?
Zordon.
The spectacle of it is
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you,
learn to
Zordon.
laugh at the fucking terror.
The whoa, what's it called? God damn it!
The
It is
Society
Zordon,
of
yeah.
Spectacle.
No. I'm trying to think of. a
Wait,
specific name.
we need to read that one, TK.
Right. No, I remember now. Like I think the funniest thing is the defense that has been put forward in a lot of cases, which my favorite one of them. There's a lot of them. But my favorite one would have to be the what lawyers like to call the tingle tangle Bob, the fucking Sideshow Bob defense.
Which is
Which is the didn't work, so it's not a crime, which is a reference to the scene in The Simpsons where where fucking Sideshow Bob goes, what am I even in for? What is this? Attempted murder? do they give out awards for attempted chemistry now too? So because the argument the administration is using is it's not bribery. The Ukrainians didn't accept the bribe.
Alright, so this
It's not a crime if it didn't work.
is it possible to take this absurd, to some boring, to others hilarious, impeachment process, to point out the theater of politics in the US?
Yeah, I can do it right now. It's it's fucking amazing because like the casus belli, like the thing that Trump did that supposedly
Hey,
warrants
Christian.
thing
Got me
that
doing-
the thing Trump did, like the very specific thing he did that supposedly warrants his impeachment, is that he bribed the Ukrainians to investigate Joe Biden doing something wrong.
Joe Biden's son.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's dumb son.
Oh my god.
Being-
Yeah, well, the thing that gets me, this is an act of bribery and corruption and misusing his office. And look, as much of a meme as it
The whole
is,
thing, the fucking 60s Spider-Man cartoon meme where it's Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man? That's literally what the fucking
Yes.
thing is. That's
yeah,
what I want.
like
Okay. I have my perfect future for this election. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want Joe Biden to be the nominee so I can watch two dementia-addled old white men fight each other on a stage.
that's really what I want to see too. Like, because I was making this argument, but to finish what I was just saying before, like the thing is, I have no doubt in my mind that the charges of impeachment are actually a legitimate charge. Like, he did break the law and misuse his office, and this is for shit we know about. There's got to be at least a million
Right.
other
Oh, yeah.
impeachable charges,
Yeah.
right? So I'm sure of this, but what makes me think is that this is not going to work. This impeachment hearing is never going to work. But if you look at the history of impeaching, there's been articles of impeachment drawn up against pretty much like every single president ever in the modern era. And the only one that got sacked was a guy who shagged his secretary. Everyone else who's invaded countries and committed
He didn't
crimes
even
got
get-
away
he didn't even get
scot-free.
Fucking.
He didn't get sacked.
It was
He
just
didn't.
awkward.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's I mean, I'm far from the first person who's said this and pointed this out, but that's what really fucking just gets under my skin about this this hysteria about Trump. Like the only reason people are upset with Trump is that he just says the quiet parts of the U.S. government loud, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Soccer
he
Barbie, like-
he
Tells
makes
it
it
like
hard
it
to
is.
ignore the fascism.
Every president since like the beginning broke the laws or the constitution in some way. Trump is just really bad at it because
Soccer Barbie, like, you know what really grinds my gears?
No,
Yes,
I like
this
to,
is-
It's
if I
just
may. If I
it's
may.
just like if you really sort of look at it, like he isn't fundamentally any different from any president we've had for the last 50 years, basically. But he's just
he's just less competent.
yeah, he's just rude. He's spoon and he says offensive things. So that's the grievance, basically. Like that's
So-
all it comes down to.
He
Okay.
offends the nicety of American politics being a show.
Right. In these situations, I always like to quote something that is about the Austrian government, but I think it relates to here as well. This is about the coalition between the Conservative Party and the Far Right Party from the years 2000 to 2008, right?
Right.
A hearing, well, not a hearing, a fucking investigation by an independent like
Bureau.
yeah, like something aligned to Europol, um, uh, requested by the Ministry of Justice, which was afterwards in the hand of the Social Democrats, and they found that, statistically speaking, if you locked every single member of government in any sort of capacity from 2000 to 2008, took them and just dumped them into prison, you'd be locking about 2 innocent people up,
Damn.
which is less than you already accidentally lock up in prison for in normal
crimes.
justice commissions. Yeah, like more people get wrongfully convicted of murder every year than that. Because good example is the scandal of our financing, where our former Minister of Finance and his associates, who was granted the chairmanship of the National Bank, now no longer the National Bank, has been privatized, curiously under his tenure, but they sent money to front companies to do construction work where neither the price nor the actual labor conducted was specified. And over the course of this, about 2 to 4 billion euros worth of funds were embezzled and spread out so far across the governmental pattern that there is literally, and I mean literally, not a single member in parliament or in local government that was not an opposition member that has not at least been offered these funds, like part of these funds. Like this, literally, I'm not being hyperbole. There is an actual document from the fucking Ministry of like from the fucking Finance Ministry. They handed out bonuses to all government officials that are aligned to the government, like all government officials.
Are you telling me that governments
And
are corrupt?
here's the kicker:
What?
the funding for that. It wasn't usually because you have to specify where you're taking that money from. Where are you taking it from? Taxes, or what are you doing? They said that they shit you not. They said they found it basically.
We just found it. This
They
isn't a
found it?
suitcase.
This is lying on
They
the side of
basically,
the road.
well, they basically insinuated that they had made a calculation error in their, well, actually not they, the previous government had made a calculation error in their budget, and now there was 4 billion euros left over, which, I have my doubts that that's what went down, especially
When does
considering
government in several million euros?
and it, yeah, and it's no different anywhere else in the world. The only thing why, like people in Central Europe make fun of Austria for that. I think Königsmarck can vouch for that one.
Oh my god, I'll be right back. My dog is crying.
But the fact of the matter is, the countries of the world aren't any different. None of them.
Oh god.
It's just that
Yeah, Senator.
ours
Jester.
are stupid enough to get caught. That's the only difference.
Yes. Same here.
They offend the nice face of politics, and that's why Trump has been so targeted. He's just like everyone else. It's just that he's
Bad at it.
So-
Bad
Yeah.
at the theater.
like
So given
the
given-
Democratic
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
like the Democratic Party will platform anybody if they're within their realms of nicety. I mean, they're running literally gay Reagan right now as a possible option. Literally Gagan.
Gagan. Fuck's sake.
Gagan.
Gay Reagan. What about Mayo Pete, our main man, the butt geek?
Butt geek.
The butt geek.
And Joe fucking Swissbrain.
So okay.
The butt geek.
So given that how ineffectual governments can be when it comes to these sort of things, will I don't want to.
Okay, what I miss?
Theo has been disconnected by the Austrian government.
Oh, fuck.
me calling Pete Buttigieg Gagan.
So okay, so it's looking
The butt geek.
given how ineffectual governments can be about these things, Trump's probably going into the 2020 election. Shit, I forgot the point I was gonna make, and then we started talking about butt geek.
The butt geek.
Oh god.
Hey, actually, on that, in the sake of memeing, have you guys seen the new butt geek campaign dance?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's
No. I refuse.
Oh.
I'm just gonna.
I rebuke you, Satan.
I just
American.
I saw that footage and it's just so tiring, you know. Like,
Yeah,
It's all so tiresome.
America
Yes.
needs to be balkanized quickly. It's getting worse.
Gagan must be stopped.
Why do
Ugh.
people still have such faith?
you know, it's
in politics?
it's amazing when I see someone like
Desperation.
Yeah, they are
They're trying to
grasping.
avoid the cognitive dissonance by just hurling themselves into something full force.
Yeah, TK, I'm gonna send it to you, incognito on Facebook because I know your true identity.
Ooh.
And
Oh.
I'm gonna ask you to put this link in the chat because fucking
Okay.
just
What were you
Well,
saying?
people
fucking-
who wanna win.
fucking
Sockbob?
Buttigieg's not even the only one who's done shit like that. I think they didn't like the Liz Warren retards do some kind of similar dance thing, and it kind of went viral because it was ridiculous and people were making fun of it. Wasn't that a thing? I think.
Not Elizabeth Warren. Like, is Warren still in the game? Like, is she
Yeah.
really still like?
She's like the main. She's like the presumptive nominee at this point.
I mean, that's Biden, I think. They are still pushing Biden.
yeah.
No,
Like,
they're gonna
if it's,
elect.
If it's
gonna be
Biden, she's a very close second, essentially.
It's
um,
gonna be Biden, and we all know it is. Even
Okay,
though
so-
he is like.
I don't
not
think it is. I think like I gotta be honest. I think the whole like woke lobby or just sort of woke culture is just has too much influence on the Democratic Party at this point. I don't think
I
they're gonna
don't
go
think
for
so.
Biden.
Okay.
We have a question from the chat from Kieran Lee. Are you guys Yang Gangers?
Oh mate, I am mad Yang
No.
Gang. Just
Oh
saying.
no.
I am mad Yang Gang. Neat bucks for days.
Anti-
freedom bucks.
Anti-parliament gang.
Hell no,
Dude.
he's a grifter.
Yeah.
Fucking-
Fully
you know what?
order-
Fucking, I said this on I said this on Twitter, I think. You know what fucking Yang Gang is? Yang Gang is the political equivalent of those fucking retards who like invaded McDonald's for the Rick and Morty sauce a few years ago. That's what they are.
It's a Reddit
Yeah,
moment.
I
Yang
stand
Gang
Yang
it
Gang.
has the same energy.
it's the Reddit moment of politics.
Is there
He's
a,
Yeah, well-
he's an epic gamer moment.
is there
Dude, like for
is,
real though, Yang Gang.
is there any
No,
truth to the statement where the critique is like if everybody gets $1,000 just straight up, landlords will raise rent by $1,000, or shops and corporations will raise their fees by like $1,000. Is there any
Not
truth to
by
that?
$1,000,
That
not by
might be-
$1,000, but
that
they
might be-
will raise it.
That's exaggerating it, but in the general idea has a lot of truth. Yeah.
Yeah, they will. It will just get itself lost in the shit that extracts money from you, because not really inflation, but the people that are at the bottom that theoretically should benefit from the most have the most people basically attached to them, like parasites that will drain it from them in any way they can.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
mean,
the thing.
I stand Yang Gang purely because he is just the peak meme. Like he is the
No,
he's-
this is where we are wrong. We are splitting the posadist caucus of the EML. Marianne Williamson.
Pac-Man.
Yang
if
is
you-
just fucking Reddit the candidate. Like that's
Yes.
All right. So here's the thing, right? So now that Cop Mala has dropped out, so we have less.
Mhm.
Oh, God.
So we've got fucking Mr. Cheesebrain, fucking like late stage dementia looking ass. We've got fucking Elizabeth Warhawk. We've got fucking
I think you mean Elizabeth War Chief.
God.
Queen with a K and a W.
Queen with the triple
we've
K.
got Gagan. We've got
Queen of the white women.
Yes, Queen of the Wine Moms.
thank
Yeah.
God
Pretty
that
much.
fucking like who's left in the race now? There's that fucking guy no one gives a shit about, the fucking Stay or whatever his name is.
That's like most people. In the
Yeah,
race.
that's like 5
Yeah.
of them. There's like 5 of them that can be like replaced by like one guy in a big suit.
Yang is still in it, isn't he? I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, look, I'll be honest. Like the thing about the Yang Gang, which really gets me, is he's just like, yo, full automation's gonna happen, so we need to hand out free money to everybody. And you know, I can honestly get behind
Okay.
that.
He's just funny man.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
What about
100%, and I love it.
He's just funny
what
man.
about
Hot take. Fucking Yang gives me the same energy as like your average anarcho-capitalist. I don't know why. There's
He
just
is,
something
he
about him
is,
that just
he
screams
is,
that
he
to
is.
me.
It's
He
it's
is.
Reddit. It's
Absolutely
Reddit.
is.
It's Reddit.
It is
Okay.
Reddit.
what
It
ab-
is Reddit. Yeah.
what about our main
Yeah.
man, our boy, our
Well, Yang very
angry
much
sock
is.
dem Bernie Sanders?
Not
Like
good
he's
enough.
not gonna get
He's
the
the only
nomination.
one-
He is.
He is.
He's definitely not, if for no other reason than it's just gonna be fucking rigged. Because let's face it,
He is going to
they
get fucked.
fucking do that.
If he
by
got
the
elected,
party.
if he was actually chosen, he'd get Eugene Debsed.
Oof.
Yeah,
Yes.
like that's.
And that
What-
would I
Yeah.
think that would actually help us.
So
He's
Eugene
really
Debs.
the only person I think has the chance to beat Trump, realistically speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
you-
but I
really-
want the dementia monkeys to find on stage.
Oh, fucking somebody.
Well,
people
here's
in
the
the-
thing: we can have the revolution, then imprison them and make them fight for our entertainment.
We can
That's
send them
bullshit.
to, let's send them to the nursing
EML
home.
does not condone any of that.
what are
Let's
you,
send them to
I
a nursing
did.
what are you
home.
gonna say, Sockbob?
Nursing home. Nursing home.
People in the chat are still in. I fucking hate Bloomberg with a passion. I despise him ardently. I think he is fucking repugnant. He is the he is just late neoliberalism
Bloomberg-
personified, basically.
Bloomberg is literally Nixon, because he's like supports all the terrible authoritarian things that Nixon did, and he praises China.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I love
Not illegal.
Have you seen Bloomberg talking about how China is amazing at climate change because like Xi Jinping listens to the people?
I love those
爱的民中国。
没有共产党，也没有新中国。
So it's a bit
keep getting those,
all over the place in terms of who we're going to get for the Democratic nominee. Most likely Joe Biden, though. Are we definitely
Sadly.
going to get Trump though?
Also a good thing.
Is it? Can we make like $1 million bet that Trump is going to be the guy to go up against?
He will be the guy who goes up.
Yeah.
Trump's
Even-
going to win
Yeah.
his second term.
The only
Like,
way
oh,
that
he
could
is.
possibly not happen is if the whole impeachment thing goes through, because I'm pretty sure if you do get impeached, you can't run again.
Well, he's
If
not going to
he-
get impeached. It's a
If
Yeah.
he-
Oh,
if-
it's probably not gonna happen. I don't think it really will, but on the
it's-
off chance it did.
It's if he has his fucking Chick-fil-A heart attack.
Oh,
Look, if Trump gets impeached and he can't run, which is a very long shot, I don't honestly know who the Republicans would put up.
They have two other candidates that are like
Yeah.
at the kids' table quote unquote debating over like the two states that haven't automatically declared Trump their king already.
Yeah, but that's what you say is exactly what I'm thinking. The Republican side has declared Trump God Emperor, basically.
Jesus.
Like,
It's,
I
it's,
would,
lit-
I
it's
would
literally what 4chan called him. Fucking God Emperor bullshit. They think he's fucking fallible.
The thing is, I honestly, people think I'm an alarmist, and the Republicans I've spoken to are like, yeah, no way, that's never going to happen. I honestly do think that if he does get a second term, if he has the opportunity, he will try to amend the Constitution to get him to stay longer. I actually think he will.
oh, I think he's gonna do that too.
I don't think he needs to like amend anything.
He will run for a third term. He will say, look, I
Just
am
run.
Trump. I am great.
He'll be dead by
I've
then.
literally seen like your really like crazy Christian conservatives be like, well, he's chosen by God, and it's just like,
God.
Okay, Karen.
We have another
I know
person.
I am back.
Hey,
Here's
baby.
the
My-
fun.
Hello,
Theo.
Theo. Welcome back. And thank you to Marx's
Oh
main
wait,
ho.
we got more money.
Here's the
There's the-
fucking thing about every president is chosen by God. Just a little tidbit of information. Like they always say that, like fucking people said that Bush was chosen by God. People said McCain was chosen by God when he was running.
Like, yeah.
And not dead. Dad.
ADX asked, USA politics today being affected by post-Reagan. I mean, Reagan is the defining turn in American politics.
Yeah. Whoa.
Dip dab. That's that the K9 coming for you.
That's not me.
That's Soccer Bar.
Yeah.
Huh.
The East,
Soccer
he has
bars.
the, he has the Eastern
dot
European
comrades.
vibe to him today.
But yeah, look, realistically speaking, there is going to be some form of. I can't see a way out of Trump getting a third term and a second term at this point.
I kind of want to
because-
see a second term of Trump, just
He-
because there's
he-
that
he eats-
accelerationist within me that's like, yes, burn
It's-
it all.
Okay, TK.
Hmm.
You know what I call that? Fortnite funny moments. that is how my brain categorizes this under is Fortnite funny moments, the adventures of Bruh Monkey.
Oh my god.
Here's the thing, like, I think the acceleration stuff is gonna happen no matter what, honestly, because here's the thing. The rabid Trump fanatics are not gonna like it if anyone but
Other
him
than
wins.
Trump.
Especially if it was someone like Bernie Sanders. That would absolutely send them into a fucking rage.
Are you talking about
And,
the Boogaloo?
Yes, we
Here's,
are now
here's the
following.
thing.
40%ers.
If Trump gets a second term, he's gonna go insane and do a bunch of terrible shit that's gonna accelerate things. If someone else gets into position, Trump's rabid fan base are gonna go insane and do shit that's gonna accelerate everything. So it's
And-
kind of inevitable.
And
It's
if Biden
weird.
or Bloomberg gets in, we will get both because they are basically like Trump, but also
I
the
do
Trump
want to
fanboys
see a
hate
debate
them.
between those two because it would just be. And on that note, and by the way,
Yeah.
the
It will be
the
just-
thing that we called the there was what we talked about earlier.
It will be just
where
Trump
we were
calling
doing-
Biden stupid, and Biden will be like, having his amazing moments and thinking how like this is amazing. No chance Nixon is going to win this time.
No, see, Joe Biden's gonna
Okay,
be up there
I'll give
and
you
be
that
like,
one. That one caught me off guard.
he's gonna lean into his fucking mic and just go leg hair, and then follow.
I honestly, like, I made this post in a group the other day where everyone was talking about, you know, there was a post made by someone who, and this was a tanky group, obviously. A post by someone was, do you support Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary? No, I want a revolutionary party to overthrow the government, etc. Yes, I'm a chauvinist, imperialist supporting pig, etc. And you know, you look at all this, and I made the unironic post. I want to see the optimum situation for us is for Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders to get absolutely shafted, even though we know at the ground level they're both more popular than Biden. Biden to get the nomination, Trump to get a second term, and then because I'm of the opinion that will, like, any people who have some hope of becoming leftists in the Democratic side of things, and all the millennials who are pinning their support to Warren and Sanders will start taking a turn hard left, because there is no way.
They won't.
There's no way.
No,
Americans won't do
not
that.
gonna fucking happen. Here's the thing: like everyone always talks about, you know, the 2016 election. Oh, fucking Bernie. You know, the narrative is that he drew in pathetic and disillusioned with politics, and either that or he he made liberals more left. Like, no, what actually happened is that he made left-leaning people. He got them invested in the Democratic Party, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like for every story you hear about, oh, I fucking was a Bernie bro in 2016, but when that tail spinned, I became a anarchist or whatever. For every one of those people, there's about 100 people who like probably had potential, if you want to say it, but now they're just, Bernie didn't work out, so I guess I have to support the other Democrat now. Like, that's what happens.
Vote
Yeah,
blue, no matter who.
Yeah, political apathy is a huge issue in the US, mostly because things are just so gridlocked and stagnant that people think, well, it doesn't really matter. There's no point in worrying about it. Nothing will change no matter what.
The invariant program from ADX other donation.
But you see, the thing is, I would challenge that in the sense that I don't think, like, if you want to use the quotation marks Overton window concept, there is a distinct rise both in more left-wing candidates and, of course, more right-wing candidates. Like, the political divide is getting more extreme progressively.
Like that
Yeah.
Sardino guy who pissed in his mouth and is openly fascist is running for Congress.
Yeah, and that's sort
Yes.
of the thing. Like, there's no longer that divide. There's no longer, like, the Overton window has widened, if you like. Now, it is now almost acceptable, if you like, for radical right and radical left candidates to be in liberal elections.
It's the same what happened in Europe with the broad coalitions between the center left and the center right. They moved to the center, that left a lot of people out, and they are now searching for alternatives.
So, Peter.
Yes.
I think I know who you would support in the Democratic primary.
Who would I support?
Well, Oppenheimer.
I'm a Bernie fan. Oppenheimer, absolutely, 100%. Oppenheimer, the main man.
How did you not know I was gonna go for a nuke joke?
Yeah, well, you see, the thing is, I am borderline, and I am borderline coming out as an actual Posadist. It started as a meme, but it's starting to not be.
What do you mean? Explain yourself.
What I mean is, literally, I am pretty much of the opinion now, after watching what's been going on, that only catastrophic collapse of society in general will give us an opening. Generally.
Yes.
So your entire worldview is basically, we live in a society, and I don't want to.
Yes,
exactly. Yes. Everyone talks about reformism and like, oh, we could do this, or we could start the Marxist-Leninist program. No, I honestly, I honestly am talking Posadist and Prim Fusion. We reset.
So do
We
you look,
reset
do you
because
look at the bushfires hitting Australia as like a good chance to start again?
No, that's reformism.
that is reformism. Yeah, it is.
Bushfires
It's
reformism.
genuine. It is genuine. You see, because the funny thing is, Friendly Geordies, everyone's favorite
funny
liberal.
moment.
Everyone's favorite liberal, in the American sense, that is, started that thing where the Berejiklian bushfires, and it has come to light that with this bushfire crisis, why are these bushfires starting? Oh, all that public funding for bushfire prevention that was put in place by the left-wing government, quotation mark left wing, was suddenly redirected to corporate bailouts and shit. By who, do you wonder? Oh, the Conservatives who are in
Jews.
power right now. Yeah, it was them, wasn't it? Barbie? It's always them, no matter what we do.
Okay. Maybe we should.
Asphalt gang, rise up.
Maybe we should wrap up this topic and move on
This
to the
topic.
next one.
Yeah,
Alexander Dugan.
You are trying to silence the Posadist. Like you don't understand. Comrade Communicator is back on the air, by the way. Comrade Communicator is back, and I have no compunctions in announcing. Posadist Rebel News, come on.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh,
He's
yes.
he's back. Like he's got a whole fucking page of like it was released the other day. He's got all his Posadist literature written down on the page. You can go and read it. It's great.
I want to
We're back,
remind
boys.
everyone
The Posadist
to
Caucus is here.
not only to like and subscribe, but also notice that underneath everybody's display picture on the video, there's also the
giant
Twitters, so
penis.
you can follow us
Um,
at Twitter to stay up to date with all the guests that have come on, and stay up to date with everything EML from the EML crew and the guest crew and the Evening with Comrades crew as well. And I have to add it to the bloody description because I forgot because it's been a while. You can also get t-shirts at Crypto, that's his name. I forgot his name. Crypto
Yes.
Store Aesthetic and Com merch, where you can buy a shirt that says EML does not advocate violence, because EML
does not advocate violence.
EML does not advocate violence, and thanks to the new copper rules, EML is not for children. This show, everything on it, this channel is not aimed at kids below 13 years old. We are adult-orientated channel. Hopefully that'll
Okay,
protect
I would-
us. from-
Titties, in case it wasn't obvious.
Okay, if you want to meet up with myself and TK Jones in the near future, please be down in Melbourne in April.
And get arrested.
Yeah, for the
Or meet each other
Marxism
in
20.
prison.
Yeah, for the Marxism 2020 conference
2010?
in April.
Bit
2010,
belated.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bit belated, yeah. The 2020 Marxism conference,
2020.
because I will be there. I hope,
Will
if
you?
I'm not at work that weekend, and I will be handing out leaflets for the Posadist Caucus. So if you want to hang out, just let us know.
Oh god.
I made this plan. I made this plan this year with Mushy. I'm gonna come to the next Marxist conference if I can get away from my new job at that point. If I'm not working that weekend, I'm gonna come down for the long weekend for the Marxism conference and spread the good word. So if you want to come hang out with us, just let us know.
I wish we were famous enough to be invited to the Marxism conference.
Yeah,
So I could
right?
be on stage in my mask, dunking on Dengus and shit posting live.
I'll be on my way.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
Okay.
Speaking of that, TK, I am actually planning on making our hangout video. I've got all the footage still on my phone. I'm going to be uploading it to Google Drive and getting it all spliced together.
Ooh.
So the question is, do you want me to upload it onto? Do you want me to send it to you and you upload it on here, or do you want me to upload it on my channel? That's an administrative question, but
Well, if it's an EML meetup, probably
it should go here.
yeah, on the EML
I'm
thing.
having real bad acid reflux right now.
Are you doing alright?
Already.
Yeah, I'm just getting sick, honestly.
Okay. Well, you know what I'm sick of? I'm sick of the situation in Hong Kong. Haha! What a segue that was.
Oh.
Hong Kong.
That Miss Crenshaw segue from fucking Today Tonight. Let's go.
It's been going on for 6 months.
Really? It's been that long?
Yes,
Yes.
6 months.
God, it does not feel that long. Time's going too fast. I don't like it.
Yes. So
Hong Kong is
so-
continuing to escalate.
Time flies when you shoot cops with friends.
Yeah.
That's true.
so can you give us
How
an
can you
update,
even-
Dip Dap,
You know,
on the
if you're,
current situation?
how can they even?
Oh,
If you're in
so-
Hong Kong, how can you even like shoot cops? How can you tell protesters from cops apart? They all look alike.
Zuckerberg.
It's one
God.
big psyop.
God.
All right, so there's a new Hong Kong police chief, Chris
Police
Tong.
chief.
Police chief. And he's
Police
wanting.
chief
He's like begging people to stop the violence.
Are people saying no?
They're saying no. China has now banned U.S. military visit to Hong Kong over protest support.
I would love it if the US just did a port call with one of their aircraft carriers, just fucking parked it right there. It would be so funny.
Aren't there elements of the protesters that want that to happen?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
most of them actually.
I mean, think about this though, okay? In 1905, a fucking Russian priest tried to lead like a pacifist rebellion to like appeal to the Tsar's like moral compass.
Tell them how that went.
Okay.
It didn't
what
work.
does
He
that-
got fucking shot, I believe.
Yeah, they got shot badly.
Okay, what does that have to do with Hong Kong in
I'm-
the
I
modern
mean,
time?
He has a segue. He always does. Let him finish.
People are like, you see dangists and like people online like the fucking China stands are like, oh, they're people with America flags. No, all evil, all imperialists. But they're appealing to a fucking other to beg it to help them or like be nice to them, and it's not gonna happen. And then something will come of it eventually. That's not shitty, hopefully.
Haven't there been already like unrest in other places in China?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Also,
Most-
economic trouble in China. I heard that there was like a bank run on like rural banks in China.
Yes.
What's the news?
China
On,
is
what's the
getting
news on Xinjiang?
Xinjiang. All right, new shit on Xinjiang. Let's see. I haven't checked in a couple days. Let's see. Well, for one, there's a lot of German companies in Xinjiang.
Oh no.
Especially car
Always
companies.
the Germans.
The Germans.
Damn, hun, you're right about it being always. It's always the Germans. They ruin everything.
Fucking hell. Yeah, my acid reflux getting real bad. I might actually lay down in a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
you need to lay down. You should do that, hun. Butts.
Yeah. I'll see you guys around.
All right.
Yes,
Thanks
you.
for
I
coming
on,
love
Theo.
you. You're cute.
Yeah. Good to have you back, TK. Don't get yourself
Mhm.
hurt. I'll kill you.
I'll do my best.
I second
Um,
that notion.
Okay, so okay, so now that the government-controlled nanites have gotten to Theo, to be honest,
The
they're
thing
after
about-
us, guys.
The thing about Xinjiang is that, and I covered this not too long ago. Essentially, they are concentration camps for one, obviously, but it's not only religiously based, quote unquote. It's more ethnically based.
Yeah.
And it's also especially culturally based because what Uyghurs call a Chinese Uyghur is somebody who is like very culturally Chinese, but is like ethnically Uyghur. They're fine. it's anybody who is not hegemonically culturally Han. And Han nationalism and Han chauvinism has been a thing in China roughly since the identity of the Han people began in the 1800s, because Han didn't exist until a bunch of fucking social Darwinists were like, "Hey, yo, bruh, you need to have a race."
Like, look, let's be honest, Dib Dab. Like, actual, socialist sort of, pan-socialist movement stuff died with Mao. Let's
It
be
died.
real. Like,
No, it died well before Mao. It died in 1927. Hard no. The Cultural Revolution was Mao solidifying his power. As
even so.
as can be read in China, Crossroad Socialism by Chen Arjin, a man who was who's a Red Guard, and then he realized, oh shit, Mao is actually just using us.
Even so, though, like, basically, the biggest red flag that should have come up was they smashed all these ancient imperialist backwards figures all the way back then, and then suddenly, the moment the new government gets into power, and Mao's sort of old establishment wastes away, suddenly Sun Tzu, Confucius, all of these people are suddenly back and they're national heroes. Yay!
Yeah,
God.
Yeah,
there's
Mao going
Confucius.
away was not what ended that. Mao going away is what took the mask off.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Okay, so what I mean by it died in 1927 is with the Shanghai Commune that was put down by the CCP allied Kuomintang.
Yeah.
And then don't forget that the Maoists were the ones that put down the Shanghai Commune.
Well, we can't have any other
In-
forms
in-
of socialism other
in
than the one we
67.
say is okay.
In 67, they put down the second Shanghai Commune, and I highly recommend reading Shengwulian, which is the Hunan. It's a really fucking long acronym. I'll just read it because I have it saved somewhere. It is the what is it? The Hunan Provincial Proletarian Revolutionary Great Alliance, or in Mandarin, Shengwulian. They were a group that wrote Wither China, one of my favorite pieces on the Cultural Revolution. It's rather short. They outlined that Mao basically went back on every promise of the fucking
Yeah.
the Cultural Revolution, and also
Yeah.
if you read Chen Arjin, in his China Crossroads, an unofficial manifesto for proletarian democracy, then you understand that Mao didn't fucking support the fucking proletariat whatsoever.
I mean,
He-
obviously, because there was almost no proletariat in China
Yeah.
at the time.
He
But
basically armed the peasants.
So if I
Essentially.
could,
Yeah, he was just peasant warlord.
So if I could,
Peasant warlord.
he's literally fucking. He was quite literally one of the fucking warlords. He's just the warlord that won Civil War.
to refocus us slightly, now that we've gotten a good update and context to the situation happening in Hong Kong, can we compare what's happening in Hong Kong to other places, specifically Iraq? Because in Iraq,
Okay.
the small amount of news that's coming out of it is that the workers and strikers and protesters and rioters have managed to seize.
Are the gamers rising up?
Kind of, yeah. They've managed to seize a bunch of government buildings, and there's that photo of what looks like a mine worker sitting in this super ornate chair.
In the fucking throne.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love
That
fucking
that
thing.
picture reminds me of that picture of Zapata sitting in the Mexican president chair. It has the same energy.
Yes. Why is it though that we get that the discussion is always on? The EML is kind of guilty with it because we're talking about Hong Kong for 6 months, at the end of all of these
Yeah.
casts. Yet, when there's some real, actual leftist revolution going on in Iraq specifically, but also in, say, Colombia and Bolivia and whatnot, that it goes ignored, or there isn't much to say about it. Why is that?
It's a mix of things. I think part of it is people tend to not like talk about something as much if they don't see it in like the news and everything. And of course the news avoids that because one, they don't want to show like actual leftist stuff happening, and two, well, they don't want anyone getting any ideas.
Hmm.
And second, I'm gonna say that as a whole with that phenomenon, there's probably an aspect of racism, and that
Yeah.
oh well, they're
There's-
brown people, we don't care. And a lot of times, and especially like very West, a lot of exceptions get made for like your East Asian people because there's this. What we see of the most is like K-pop idols and things like that
They're
are like
fetishized.
yeah, and so we're like, oh well, those are cool, we like them.
Also, the stereotype is that like the Middle East or like South America is like still on fire, while the Chinese government has actually actively fostered the idea that like China is this like concrete, stable place that where nothing is happening
Yeah.
for many years now. The PR of China, of like Chinese government, has been that this is a stable society, nothing happens.
Nothing happened.
I
in
think the one thing
1986.
about yeah, I think the big thing from what's going on with the Iraqi protests is the again threatening to delve into using meme terminology for simplicity. It really is a sort of a case of Nazbol gang basically. There it's sort of the main causes listed by all the articles I've found on it are state corruption, anti-Iranian sentiment, anti-American sentiment, unemployment, low wages, and poor public services. Essentially, if we're talking about a historical parallel, maybe the earlier revolutions in Tsarist Russia after the defeat against Japan in 1905, they're basically angry at the government for not doing a government's job, and they want Iraq to be free of American influence and to go fuck up the Iranians. Is basically what they want to do.
But there is also like some statements by the protesters that they are not against Iranian people but against Iranian government.
Yeah,
which is interesting to see.
I mean
Well, there's a
There
thing
was-
going on in Iran too now.
Yeah.
Iran as
A
well.
massacre.
What's happening there?
A bloodbath.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
the state is
yes.
putting them down. The state is putting them down, like categorically.
They were fucking shooting from helicopters.
And
Jesus
Yeah.
and the
Christ.
thing is, the protesters were shooting back. At some cases, I saw videos of like cops getting gunned by the protesters.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly,
fine.
I think we ought to try and focus on it more in future stuff.
They're always doing shit over there in Iran. There's always riots over something.
Thing is, like,
This is a bit different than the normal riot thing. This is a fair bit different.
So could it be a case of like not just like, oh, we don't care about the Middle East? Could it also be news outlets are like, what? Another riot somewhere in the Middle East? Oh yeah, we'll just put that on the big pile of other riots from the Middle East that we get every day. Is it kind of like that? Like
Probably.
Yeah.
There is
more
an
of the
aspect
same.
of that as well, I'm sure.
So in contrast, would that make Hong Kong different and new and exciting then?
Yeah, it's more easy to sensationalize as part of why the media is caring
Yeah.
more about it, and also any leftist influences that are going on in there are pretty easy to just sweep under the rug and forget about.
See and then get rid of.
Well, it's probably easier for, Americans or Europeans or whoever. It's probably easier for them to relate to Hong Kong protesters than Iranian or Iraqi rioters or whatever, because it's like all the fucking thing I've seen about Hong Kong is that like the Hong Kong guys are just redditors basically. Like they're just like I'm not even exaggerating really. It almost does kind of seem like they're presenting it as a sort of gamers rise up thing really. Like it is this sort of middle class
there's
young
So
that-
far.
fighting against corruption is like how it's sort of presented, and it's kind of a
Yeah.
different. It's kind of a different characterization between that and the Middle Eastern and South American presentations. You know.
I think what's important to recognize, I have to make it very clear, I do not support China. I have never supported and will never support the Chinese government. The reason that Hong Kong is easy to look at is they can posture it as against communists when they're not
Sure.
communists. It's easy to like get that perspective and then say that, and then Americans will lap it up because we're stuck in Cold War bullshit.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It is literally the only reason why they make such a big deal out of Hong Kong is because it is the neoliberal middle class intellectuals and capitalists from Hong Kong taking a stand against the filthy communists on the mainland.
Yeah.
And
It's what it is.
Yeah.
And again, I should say, again, I do not support the government of China at all. I want them to fucking burn. But it's just a reality in that sense. Because again, I say that the Chinese Revolution died in 1927.
Also, it's an attempt of Americans show we are not owned. You see,
Posturing.
they are. It's like the Americans are like, you see, we are not getting owned constantly by China on the world stage because you see they have a protest.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, America is like third world country.
America is a third world country.
Oh yeah, like it literally is.
The OECD ranks us below a ton of developing countries.
Jesus
In what?
Christ.
In infrastructure mainly.
Oh.
Oh yeah, like American infrastructure is just like it's totally in shambles.
This is not really a dox because it's in my city, and my city has over 200,000 people.
No, don't do it. Don't do it, Dipped out.
People know I live in Alabama, and people know that I'm in and around the main city of Alabama. The region has a few million. I'm fine. There's a place called Malfunction Junction. We haven't fixed it in fucking 40 years.
God.
It's been the state renamed it Malfunction Junction and made a joke out of it, basically,
Oh my god.
because people get hit there all the time.
Well,
That
there's a
is
constant
sad.
running joke in my city of Adelaide, which is Adelaide will be a great city when it's finished.
That's true of
Because we have
almost every
roadworks
city.
on literally every single street. No, but
Jesus.
seriously, Adelaide is famous for roadworks. Adelaide is actually famous for roadworks. We have the worst. Inner city
Also,
roads.
I looked up Malfunction Junction, and Wikipedia has a thing, and there are 7 of them in the South.
Jesus.
No, 6 in the South and 1 in Ohio.
Alright, so if
Oh shit, yeah.
if the US, by the sounds of it, is ineffectual in not wanting to and probably can't even help the Hong Kong people, like not even sending a US carrier and parking it next to Hong Kong, what could the Hong Kong protesters achieve comparing that to what the Iraqi protesters have already achieved? Like, what's the end
Not
goal here?
much, probably.
Not much.
Just
Yeah.
I mean,
just fuck shit up, basically.
It's
Iraq is
proletarian anger and fucking petty bourgeois anger.
Iraq is essentially under American occupation still. When they say they're not, but they are essentially under American occupation. And the Americans will redeploy troops to Baghdad and secure their assets if things get serious enough.
Yeah.
Which is how you might actually get another, like a mirror version of the Iranian Revolution.
America has already sanctioned Iran for like things about Iraqi protests
America
They've-
has been
they've sanctioned
sanctioning
Iraq.
Iran for like
for years, but like they did it again.
like
Even
how more
this
can you
time.
even do it?
How many fucking sanctions can you add? How long can it go until it's just ineffective? Like
It's already ineffective. It's just like
it must have like a
it's just
depreciating value.
posturing.
They're just I mean they're really just telling American citizens we're sanctioning Iran, and then American Democrats be like, "Yay!" and do the Pete
Pretty
Buttigieg
much.
and do the Pete Buttigieg dance, and then fucking
Die.
and then have a fucking Fortnite funny moment, and that's it.
This meme needs to die.
No, it's never dying.
America needs to die.
Yes.
Alright, well,
God.
Regional destabilization of the Middle East. Funny moments.
Yes.
alright, well,
Like the thing with sanctions is that the thing that hurts about sanction is the initial hit, and then it just diminishes, and it actually can help. Like look at Cuba.
Oh yeah.
alright, well, we've been talking ad nauseum for about an hour and 36 minutes now. Perhaps that's a good time to wrap this up, unless anyone's got any last words on Hong Kong and the worldwide boogaloo that's occurring.
Have you talked about the things in Finland?
No,
We did, yes.
what's happening in
We
Finland?
talked about it. We talked about it.
Oh, you have? Oh,
Okay.
Like how they're having a huge strike too.
Well, they had, and then they won.
Ah.
Well,
job done.
I
Well
mean,
done.
Central Hall. What?
apparently there's a new wave of strikes to hit Finland next week.
Ah,
Ooh.
interesting.
It's here.
Finland moment.
Like- Yeah, I think honestly, I think we're pretty much covered everything. I mean,
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
the only thing I can really say is what I always say, which is long live Posadas, long live Comrade High Commander.
You're saying it
That's
all I
unironically
really have to
now.
say.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
read Paul Lafarge. Read The Right to Be Lazy. Stop being a work fetishist.
Listen to my audiobook on my channel, Flying Saucers in the Socialist Future of Mankind.
Watch out for when I make a video where I get fucking blasted in Read Levi poems.
Anybody else?
Every
Any
Levi
last
poem
plugs?
is about alcohol.
Oh, fucking Dip Dap. We still need to do that video where you talk about your friend who like did
Oh,
the
who
N-word.
sold Edward passes for $5?
Oh god.
That's amazing.
That was actually a masterpiece because, like, honestly, that is the way for reparations to be done. Like, honestly, you
It's
pay
a
for the
win-win.
N-word.
Okay, Soccer Bar, we will make that video eventually.
We will.
In the meantime, TK, I'm uploading all of the footage and photos from the EML meetup onto my Google Drive, and I will see if I can put together a video.
Ah, sweet,
us.
sweet. All right. Well,
We probably won't be able to monetize it because I'm going to use music and shit and that, but just fun.
copyright strikes. Here we come. All right. Well, I guess that's it from everybody. I want to
Yeah.
thank everybody in the chat for joining us, and I want to give a special thanks to Sockbarb, Pac-Man, Senna, Dip Dap, Konigsberg, and Theo.
Königsberg?
That's in
Mark.
East Prussia.
Sorry, Königsmark. Thank you guys and everyone for coming on. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay up to date with everything Eastern Marshlands, and hopefully in 1 week's time we'll be back again. Catch you all later.
Viva Posadas.
Thank you,
See
Marx's
ya.
main ho, for that last minute donation.
Hey.